Part 51. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuchi. Chapter 501. Who? In front of an ancient stone bridge about 10 miles away from the medical school, in a black business car, Sulitsi, who was sitting in the co-pilot seat, leaned back on the seat after hanging up the phone. When she learned that Zhang Fengjai mistakenly thought that Xiao Yuxuan had betrayed him and vomited blood and was injured, and that his phone could not be reached, Sulitsi's first reaction was to go to the stone bridge where she helped him for the first time. Because Zhang Fengjai also misunderstood Bai Jinjiao's emotional betrayal, which led to vomiting blood and being injured and appearing in front of the stone bridge. Moreover, after they officially started dating, she occasionally heard Zhang Fengjai always mention the stone bridge inadvertently. Therefore, she believed that the stone bridge had a special meaning for Zhang Fengjai, and he would go to the stone bridge to relax when he was injured or depressed. However, in order to wait for Zhuang Jian, who had returned to Ningji City, she, Shen Loxi and Xiao Yuxuan waited for about 40 minutes before setting off to the stone bridge. Although she did not find the injured Zhang Fengjai in front of the stone bridge, she was completely relieved when she received a call from Zhang Fengjai at the moment she decided to return to the city. Then, she turned her head and looked at Xiao Yuxuan, whose eyes were full of tears, and asked with suppressed anger. "Yuxuan, I have known Yezi for the longest time, and I am the one who knows him best among us. Although he just said that he was fine on the phone, I can feel his sadness at this moment through the tone of his voice. So, what I need to know now is how you plan to eliminate Yezi's misunderstanding and comfort his injured heart." "Sister Litsi, what do you think I should do?" Xiao Yuxuan, who had been in a state of confusion for a long time, quickly reached out and grabbed Sulitsi's shoulders, and asked for help with a look of helplessness on her face. Alas! Facing Xiao Yuxuan's pitiful appearance, Sulitsi, who finally softened her heart, couldn't help but sigh and ordered. "Yuxuan, tell me in detail about you and Zhao's Haidong first, and don't hide anything." "Okay." After nodding vigorously, Xiao Yuxuan began to tell in detail how she met Zhao's Haidong and why she agreed to accept his courtesy. When they heard that Xiao Yuxuan was planning to change the school she applied for privately, Zhuang Jian and Shen Loxi showed dissatisfaction in their eyes at the same time. In order to allow Xiao Yuxuan to successfully enter the Finance and Economics College in the provincial capital, Zhuang Jian used her identity and connections in the Supernatural Research Institute to help her pave all the obstacles in the written test and interview, which was enough to ensure that she passed the exam smoothly. In order to allow Xiao Yuxuan to study in the provincial capital with peace of mind, Shen Loxi had already bought a house and a car for her in the provincial capital in advance, and specially hired a nanny with good cooking skills to take care of her, which was enough to ensure her comfortable life in the provincial capital. Therefore, Xiao Yuxuan's selfish change of the school she applied for made them feel quite dissatisfied, and there was also a trace of loss and sadness in their hearts. After listening to Xiao Yuxuan's story, Sulitsi closed her eyes and thought for a while. After opening her eyes again, she showed a confident smile on her face and crawled to Xiao Yuxuan's ear, and then whispered. "Yuxuan, after returning to Luo 11's villa, you should wash yourself clean first, and then." In front of the cashier of Jinsan's Zokai TV. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Fengjai looked at Yi, whose eyes were a little scattered and whose breath was a little weak, and frowned slightly. After shaking his head to signal wrong not to speak for the time being, he held up Yi's arm with his left hand, put his right hand fingers on her wrist, and then closed his eyes and began to carefully feel her pulse. The time for feeling the pulse was not very long, only about 20 seconds. Zhang Fengjai suddenly opened his eyes, turned his head and looked around, then quickly bent down to pick up Yi, and then broke into a box next to him. "Brother, what do you want to do?" Seeing Zhang Fengjai holding Yi and running straight to the soft sofa in the box, Rong, who had some wrong thoughts, asked angrily. Without paying attention to Rong's questioning, he put Yi on the sofa. Zhang Fengjai took out 3 ordinary silver needles from his sleeves, and then inserted 2 silver needles into the Guanyuan and Qi acupuncture points at a gust of wind speed, and the remaining needle was slowly inserted into the Tanzong acupointment. Zhang Fengjai's acupuncture made Rong know that she had just misunderstood the other party's intention. She immediately felt ashamed and walked to his side, intending to sincerely apologize to him. But at this moment, Yi's delicate body suddenly twitched violently, and a lot of cold sweat instantly appeared on her forehead. This made her immediately worried and wanted to ask more questions. Zhang Fengjai quickly pulled out the 3 silver needles with both hands. As the silver needles were pulled out, Yi's twitching body began to slowly calm down, and her pale face gradually became ruddy. "Brother, what were you doing just now? What happened to Yi?" Seeing Yi's breathing gradually stabilized, Rong was temporarily relieved and hurriedly asked Zhang Fengjai. "Yi's physique is much weaker than normal people. He Jiichen's rude insults, fear, and panic have caused her heart to fail." After using the gray energy of Danshan to disinfect the silver needle, Zhang Fengjai explained with great relief. "Fortunately, after my acupuncture treatment just now, she is completely out of danger. If he hadn't ended the boxing match and left the basement early, and if he hadn't been proficient in medical skills and saw something wrong in advance, Yi would have died of heavy bleeding and heart failure in at most 5 or 6 minutes." After hearing Zhang Fengjai's explanation, Rong also felt extremely fortunate. She quickly picked up a box of tissues from the coffee table, then squatted in front of the sofa and told Yi about her experience while cleaning the sweat on her forehead and neck. "Brother, Yi is a very pitiful girl. Because her parents valued boys over girls, she was abandoned at the door of the welfare center the moment she was born. It was the aunts and teachers of Kongzhuang Welfare Center who raised her to adulthood and tried their best to send her to college. So Yi's biggest wish is to repay the benefactors of the welfare center and let the orphans in the welfare center have money to treat their illnesses and go to school. Brother, Yi and I are both 21 years old this year. We are students majoring in computer science at Ningji Vocational and Technical College. Now is the time for us to leave school and work. Today's social competition is too fierce. Even college graduates find it difficult to find a job, let alone junior college students like us who are inferior to others. So, in order to earn money to repay the welfare center and to help her boyfriend continue to study for undergraduate and graduate degrees, Yi can only choose the job of accompanying wine. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 502. In the box of Jinsan Zokai TV. Hearing Rong talking about Yi's experience, she mentioned that she used part of the money she earned from drinking to support her boyfriend to continue his studies. Zhang Fengjai interrupted Rong's story and asked with a frown. "Rong, what kind of person is Yi's boyfriend? Do you have a photo of him on your phone?" "Brother, Yi's boyfriend is Zhao's Haiqiang. He is a kid from a remote mountainous area. Although his family conditions are very ordinary, he is very handsome and has a cheerful personality." While introducing the situation of Yi's boyfriend, Rong took out Yi's phone, found a photo of Zhao's Haiqiang, and handed it to Zhang Fengjai. "Ah!" After carefully observing the photos in the phone, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help shaking his head and sighing, and then gave a solemn order. "Rong, wait until Yi wakes up, and then let her break up with Zhao's Haiqiang." "Brother, are you worried that Zhao's Haiqiang will abandon her out of disgust after knowing that Yi was insulted? That's why you let her take the initiative to break up to avoid losing both her money and her life in the future." After hearing Zhang Fengjai's solemn instructions, Rong pondered for a while, and then a flash of enlightenment flashed in her eyes. When she was about to nod in agreement with Rong's guess, Yi suddenly opened her eyes and retorted. "Rong, brother's Haiqiang is not a narrow-minded person. He will understand my experience of being insulted today. Moreover, when he agreed to my job of accompanying me to drink and make money, he swore to the sky that no matter what kind of humiliation and insult I encountered in the karaoke bar, as long as I was not willing and proactive, he would forgive me and continue to accept me. Tisk. Hearing Yi Yi's trust in Zhao's Haiqiang, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but sneer and reminded Yi Yi, if a man really likes a girl, he would rather give up his studies and work to support that girl, or even willingly sell blood and kidneys. No, you are wrong. Facing Zhang Fengjai's ridicule of Zhao's Haiqiang, Yi Yi, who was forced to sit up, defended him with a firm look. In fact, brothers Haiqiang also planned to give up his studies and work to support me at the beginning. I took the initiative to beg him to continue studying so that he could find a good job in the future to support the welfare center and support me and our children. Yi Yi, do you really believe in Zhao's Haiqiang? Yi Yi's infatuation with Zhao's Haiqiang suddenly reminded him of Su Lixu's infatuation with Wang Hao. This made him feel pity and decided to use the cruelest facts to awaken her, so as to resolve the life and death disaster she might encounter in the future. Yes, I believe brothers Haiqiang is a good man with feelings and righteousness. Nodding vigorously, Yi Yi replied in an affirmative tone. Yi Yi, since you know Zhao's Haiqiang so well, I want to ask you now, is Zhao's Haiqiang a very filial child? Zhang Fengjai asked with a slight smile after taking Yi Yi's phone from Rong and finding the photo just now and taking another look at it. Yes, every month, brothers Haiqiang will use the little money he saves to buy some nutritional supplements for his uncle and aunt. Yi Yi, does Zhao's Haiqiang always listen to his mother's words? Yes, this also shows that brothers Haiqiang is a good son and a good man with affection and righteousness. Yi Yi, with tenderness in her eyes, answered with a proud look. In other words, whether you can successfully marry Zhao's Haiqiang in the future, his parents' opinions will play a crucial role. Yes, but I believe that my uncle and parents will definitely like me and will agree to my marriage with brothers Haiqiang. Yi Yi answered confidently. Yi Yi, if you can't give birth to the Zhao family, will his parents still agree to your marriage? What do you mean? Yi Yi asked quickly with a slightly changed expression. Looking at Yi Yi's thin face, nervous expression, and a resolute look in his eyes, Zhang Fengjai took a deep breath and replied truthfully. Yi Yi, you have congenital anemia and heart disease, and your physique is too weak. Not only will you not be able to give birth to offspring smoothly in the future, but you also need to be restrained in that aspect. Do you think Zhao's Haiqiang will keep his promise to be with you and me? No, you're lying. Yi Yi's face turned pale as paper in an instant, and she showed an unacceptable look in her eyes. Yi Yi, if you don't believe me, you can let Rong accompany you to the hospital for a comprehensive examination now, and then you will know whether I am lying or not. After completely extinguishing the last glimmer of hope in Yi Yi's heart, Zhang Fengjai turned around and left the box directly. After turning her head to look at Yi Yi, who looked dazed, Rong chased after him and stopped him at the cashier counter, then asked him with an unhappy look. Brother, why did you tell Yi Yi such a cruel thing? For her life, Zhang Fengjai replied without any surprise to Rong's question. Then, he pointed to the photo on the phone that he had not returned. Rong, take a close look at Zhao's Haiqiang's expression and tell me what you feel. He's handsome, masculine, and popular with girls. Rong, who had seen it countless times, answered after just a simple glance. The eyes seem clear and kind, but in fact they are sinister and cunning. The smile seems bright, but in fact they are hypocritical and ruthless. So, even if he chooses to accept the fact that Yi Yi was insulted now, it must be due to the limitations of the reality and the unwillingness to give up the idea of playing with Yi Yi. When he succeeds in his studies in the future, he will definitely abandon Yi Yi without mercy. If the infatuated Yi Yi cannot accept being abandoned, then she is likely to do something extremely stupid. Although it is impossible to judge Zhao's Haiqiang's fate based on his face through a still photo, Zhang Fengjai also knows from his facial expression that this guy is definitely not a man worthy of Yi Yi's life. What's more, when he treated Yi Yi for the emergency of heart failure just now, he also used the sky eye to observe her fate and found that although she was blessed with a lot of blessings, she would have a fatal disaster in the future, and the disaster was closely entangled with the male and female palaces. Therefore, Zhang Fengjie concluded that the life and death disaster she would encounter in the future must be related to Zhao's Haiqiang. At the same time, Yi Yi's tragic fate and her kindness made him feel pity, and he decided to help Yi Yi wholeheartedly. This was the real reason why he confessed the cruel truth just now. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 503. In front of the cashier counter of Jinsan Zoke TV. After hearing Zhang Fengjie's detailed explanation, Rong Rong took the phone and observed it again. The more carefully she observed, the more she felt that Zhao's Haiqiang's smile seemed hypocritical. At the same time, combined with Zhao's Haiqiang's previous selfish practices, she gradually believed in Zhang Fengjie's judgment, and she could understand Zhang Fengjie's intention to confess the cruel things to Yi Yi just now. Brother, thank you. After putting away Yi Yi's phone, Rong Rong looked up and looked directly into Zhang Fengjie's eyes, and thanked him sincerely. Rong Rong, you and I don't have to be so polite. After shaking his head, Zhang Fengjie thought of Sulitzi, who was waiting for him in the villa, and waved his hand to say goodbye. Rong Rong, I have something important to deal with, so I'll leave first. Wait a minute. Seeing Zhang Fengjie turning around and planning to leave, Rong Rong quickly spoke to keep him, and took out her phone to signal. Brother, give me your phone number and bank account number. I will transfer the money to you by computer after I return to the rented house. The 100 million bonus and 100 million gambling money are enough to bring him 2 million fortune, so Zhang Fengjie nodded and told Rong Rong his phone number and bank account number. After saving the mobile phone number and bank account number in the mobile phone, Rong Rong said with a flash of tenderness in her eyes. Brother, I want to give you a gift. What gift? Zhang Fengjie asked subconsciously. Brother, close your eyes first. Rong Rong, with a slightly blushing face, bit her lower lip and asked. Okay. Not paying attention to Rong Rong's expression, he didn't notice that she was wrong at this time, so facing her request, Zhang Fengjie nodded and agreed to close his eyes. Then, the moist, fragrant, sweet, and hot lips pressed hard on his lips. The moment she suddenly opened her eyes, Rong Rong, with a red face, immediately stepped back and turned to run to the box, which surprised Zhang Fengjie, and he couldn't help licking his lips. Ah! After shaking his head with a sigh, Zhang Fengjie turned around and left the karaoke hall, hailed a taxi, and then rushed to the villa in Guanghe Huafu. Compared with Shiqiao, which is far away from the city, Jinsan Zoke TV, located in the city center, has a certain geographical advantage, but because of the delay in saving Yi Yi, when Zhang Fengjie returned to the Shen family's villa, Sulitzi, Shen Loxi and Zhuang Jian had already been waiting in the living room. Sister Litzi. First, he hugged Sulitzi tightly, then looked up at Zhuang Jian, who was missing him, and asked with a smile. Sister Yan, when did you come back? I took the high-speed train at 6:30 this afternoon, and then followed Litzi and Loxi to look for you everywhere. Walking to Zhang Fengjie, Zhuang Jian looked him up and down, and after confirming that his breath and blood were very stable, she replied with a smile. Sister Yan, how do you plan to deal with the matter of the human face spider in your supernatural research institute? Faced with Zhang Fengjie's inquiry, Zhuang Jian smiled and shook her head, then turned around and sat back next to Shen Loxi. At the same time, Sulitzi stood in front of him, looked straight into his eyes, and said solemnly. Yezi, in fact, you really misunderstood Yuxuan. She didn't betray you emotionally. The smile on his face froze instantly, and Zhang Fengjie replied with a frozen tone, bypassing Sulitzi's plan to go upstairs. Sister Litzy, I'm tired, I want to go back to my room to rest first. But Sulitzi quickened her pace and stood in front of him again, and then quickly explained Xiao Yuxuan's idea of applying for the Magic City Finance and Economics College and the experience of using Zhao's Haidong. Then, she said with a serious look. Yezi, although Yu Xian's behavior is very inappropriate, her starting point is to hope that she can be truly worthy of you and can help you in your career, so she has the qualifications to be forgiven. After hearing Sulitzi's explanation, Zhang Fenjai's indifferent expression was gradually replaced by astonishment. Because in his impression, Xiao Yuxuan is a girl with a gentle temperament and simple thoughts. How could she use other people's feelings to achieve her personal goals? However, thinking that she was able to independently raise her sister who was missing a soul to grow up after losing her parents, I am afraid that her mind is not as simple as she imagined. At the same time, recalling her decision to take her sister away from the apartment immediately when she found the resentful spirit in Xiao Yuxi's sea of consciousness, Zhang Fenjai gradually believed Sulitzi's explanation just now. But it was precisely because of believing in Sulitzi's explanation just now that Zhang Fenjai's heart surged with uncontrollable anger. Whether it was the job that Shen Loxi arranged for her, or Zhuang Jian helping her pave the way for the postgraduate entrance examination, or the highest compensation for demolition that he had obtained for her, all of them had solved all her worries, so that she didn't need to use conspiracy and intrigue to replan her life, and it almost led to a breakup between them. Sister Yan, please drive to the normal college to pick up Xiao Yuxuan. The more he thought about it, the angrier he became, and the more he wanted to teach her a lesson, so Zhang Fenjai gritted his teeth and ordered Zhuang Jian. Yezi, there's no need for me to drive to pick up Sister Yuxuan, because she's waiting for you in the guest room on the second floor, waiting to apologize to you. Zhuang Jian pointed to the guest room on the second floor and reminded with an ambiguous smile on her face. You little bitch, wait and see how I'll deal with you. After leaving a very angry sentence, Zhang Fenjai quickened his pace and rushed into the second floor customer service room. However, just when he just closed the door, a hot and smooth body hugged him tightly, and the hot and sweet lips blocked his mouth that wanted to criticize. The electric current that quickly emerged in his body instantly replaced Zhang Fenjai's inner anger with evil thoughts, and then he hugged the hot and smooth body tightly and ran straight to the soft and comfortable big bed. When she heard the panting and suppressed shouting from the guest room, Sulitzi, whose face was slightly flushed, stood up and said to Shen Loxi and Zhuang Jian. Xiaoxiu is a little worried about being alone at home, so I'm going back to the apartment to accompany her now. Liz, let me take you, Zhuang Jian, who also stood up immediately, suggested. Master Zhu and I still have a lot of work to discuss, let's leave together. Shen Loxi, whose face was also blushing, also stood up immediately and gestured. Although they each found excuses to leave the villa, when they reached the door of the villa's living room, they subconsciously glanced at the guest room with envy and jealousy flashing in their eyes. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 504. In the guest room of Shen's villa. One is angry, the other feels guilty. One is full of fire, the other tries his best to cooperate. After tossing each other for 5 times and 6 hours, Xiao Yuxuan, who finally surrendered and begged for mercy, fell asleep contentedly. Looking at Xiao Yuxuan, who was sleeping soundly, with tears of apology in the corners of her eyes, Zhang Fenjai's eyes flashed with tenderness and distress, and he reached out to wipe her clean. Then, he got out of bed wrapped in a bathrobe and walked to the window sill. He glanced at the hanging position of the bright moon, calculated the time in his mind, and found that it was already 3/4 of an hour, which is commonly known as the cock crowing at the 4th watch. Thinking that he had to go to the Heshuo community this morning to solve the feng shui hidden dangers of the 3-legged golden toad and help Sulixu sell the villas and high-rise buildings in the community, Zhang Fenjai took 3 steps back and sat cross-legged, then ran the adjustment state of the Hunyuan taking heart method, and carefully considered ways to solve the feng shui hidden dangers. Time passed by every second. As the sun rose, everything woke up. Zhang Fengjai, who had already washed up, hesitated for nearly 3 minutes, and finally woke up Xiao Yuxuan. Because during the time he got up and washed up, he received calls from Suligxiu, Xiaqingxuan, Panswiting, and Zhongli Wanran, urging him to rush to Heshuo community as soon as possible. Yuxuan, wake up, we still have to go to Heshuo community today. Ha! Xiao Yuxuan yawned with her eyes closed and stretched hard because of her excessive fatigue and satisfaction. Because of the excessive stretching of her arms, the blanket covering her body slipped off, revealing her smooth jade-like skin and the proudly standing mountain. Although he had climbed the mountain dozens of times in the 5 fierce battles in the late night and early morning, he did not carefully observe the attractive scenery of the mountain due to the excitement and light. At this moment, the attractive scenery clearly displayed in front of him made Zhang Fengjai feel dry in the mouth, and his body immediately showed a tendency to change. Ah! After yawning, Xiao Yuxuan slowly opened her eyes and immediately saw the direction where Zhang Fengjai was looking. When she realized that she had completely lost her temper, she immediately shouted embarrassedly, then immediately grabbed the blanket to cover her head, and begged with a tone of begging for mercy. After hearing this, Zhang Fen did not continue. Although the proudly standing mountain made him want to continue climbing, thinking of Suligxiu, Xiaqingxuan, Panswiting, Zhongli Wanran, and others who had already rushed to Heshuo community, he could only suppress his inner impulse and get up and leave the guest room, and return to the sofa in the living room on the first floor to wait. Heshuo community, in front of the artificial rockery and pond. After using the seal spell drawn in advance to seal the running water flowing into the pond, Zhang Fengjai turned his head to look at the 6 newcomers in the sales department and solemnly exhorted. What happens next will definitely exceed your previous cognition, and may even break the scientific beliefs you have always adhered to. But I hope you can keep absolutely quiet and not talk or move around, and keep it absolutely confidential afterwards. The 6 young girls who had just graduated and started working, although they showed doubts in their eyes, all nodded and agreed very obediently. After sweeping his eyes over Xiao Yuxuan, Suligxiu, Panswiting, Xiaqingxuan, Zhongli Wanran, and Alves, Zhang Fengjai took a deep breath, then used the gray energy to activate the water talisman held tightly in his right hand, and shouted loudly and reached out to grab the surface of the pond. The dragon emerges from the water. The originally calm water in the pond gradually churned with Zhang Fengjai's shouting. As the water in the pond churned violently, a monster that looked like a dragon but not a dragon, like a snake but not a snake, and was pure white all over, slowly flew out of the pond. Xiao, this is the dragon in myth and legend. When seeing the creature rising from the pond, a little girl who likes online novels very much and has a very pure appearance immediately shouted excitedly. After hearing the little girl's shout, the other 5 girls were very excited, but also showed a trace of fear in their eyes. At the same time, the werewolf Alvis, who was temporarily transferred by Zhang Fengjai to maintain sales law and order and specifically protect the safety of Xiao Yuxuan and Suligxiu, immediately stood in front of the crowd and looked nervously at the dragon that could fly in the air and had a hideous shape. First, he turned his head to signal Alvis not to be nervous, and then used his eyes to warn the 6 little girls not to make noise. Zhang Fengjai took a step back, pinched his mouth and chanted a spell to continue casting. The dragon swallows water. When Zhang Fengjai's roar fell, the dragon playing around the rockery stopped directly above the pond, then opened his mouth and sucked the pond water hard, and countless pond water was forcibly sucked into the dragon's body. As the water in the pond was gradually absorbed by the dragon, which was only about 2 meters long, quickly grew longer and thicker, and soon became a giant over 20 meters long, and its expression became more and more ferocious and terrifying, which made the 6 girls retreat more than 10 steps in fear. At the same time, Suligxiu, Xiaqingxuan, and Zhongli Wanran looked at Zhang Fengjai with a trace of admiration and fascination. As the water in the pond continued to decrease, a golden toad statue about 1 meter high, with a shape close to the real thing and 3 legs, gradually appeared. After waving his hand to signal the dragon to stop absorbing the water, Zhang Fengjai jumped directly into the pond, stood on a piece of bluestone protruding from the water, and then carefully looked at the statue of the 3-legged golden toad and its scarlet eyes. If it was not known in advance that this 3-legged golden toad was a statue, then facing the body with countless bumps and lifelike expressions, it would be easy for people to mistake it for a living golden toad. For example, Sulixiu, who bravely walked past Alvis to the edge of the pond, immediately asked with surprise in her eyes when she saw the 3-legged golden toad. "Brother-in-law, how can there be such a huge toad in this world?" Sulixiu's surprised question immediately aroused the strong interest of Xiao Yuxuan and others. They also forced themselves to come to the edge of the pond and then made the same exclamation as Sulixiu. I've never seen such a big toad before." 2 hums, me too. 3 hums, I agree with the first and second floors. Ignoring the 6 girls' online size, Zhang Fengjai jumped onto another stone protruding from the water, showing the front of the 3-legged golden toad and reminded with a smile. "Zioxiu, take a closer look." After hearing Zhang Fengjai's reminder, Sulixiu moved forward a little and observed carefully. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 505. In front of the pond in Heshuo community. This is actually a toad statue. There is no violent ups and downs of the belly, 3 legs completely connected to the rocks at the bottom of the pond, and countless bumps all over the body, but there is no feeling of creepiness at all. After careful observation, Sulixiu's surprised look was gradually replaced by shock, and she even pointed out the true form of the toad in front of her without speaking clearly. Sulixiu's dumbfounded loss of composure also made everyone gathered around her carefully observe the 3-legged golden toad, and finally they were also shocked and speechless. Fortunately, Xiao Yuxuan, who had experienced many strange events with Zhang Fengjai, was the first to calm down from the shock, and then asked 2 questions that emerged in her heart. "Yezi, which master made this toad statue? And why are the eyes of the toad statue scarlet?" Without answering Xiao Yuxuan's question for the time being, Zhang Fengjai took out 4 talismans of the 4 elements of gold, wood, fire, and earth from his sleeves, and then pasted them on the 3 thick legs and head of the golden toad respectively. Afterwards, he lightly jumped to the side of Xiao Yuxuan, pointing at the 3-legged golden toad and explaining. "Yuxuan, the scientific name of this toad statue is the 3-legged golden toad. It has the effect of attracting wealth and gathering fortune. It is called the 4 great fortune-attracting beasts together with Pixiu, Jin-Ao, and Kylin. If I am not mistaken, this 3-legged golden toad should be the hand of Wu Yuja, the owner of King Xinjia Tea House. As for why the eyes of the 3-legged golden toad are scarlet, it is because Wu Yuja infiltrated the poisonous blood of the 5 poisonous creatures, the green bamboo snake, the centipede, the golden toad, the red giant scorpion and the black spider, during the carving process. And the poisonous blood after the fusion of the 5 poisonous creatures not only changed the constitution of the 3-legged golden toad to attract wealth, but also has the powerful effect of corroding the 5 elements of luck. This is the real reason why the sales of Heshuo community are not good. In fact, the reason why he concluded that the sales problems of Heshuo community were related to Chen Yunhan of Zhulang Group was the poisonous blood in the eyes of the 3-legged golden toad. Because Wu Yuja, the backer behind Chen Yunhan, is a poison cultivator who is good at cultivating the 5 poisonous creatures. After explaining the origin of the 3-legged golden toad, Zhang Fengjai signaled everyone to step back 10 meters. Then, he quickly condensed the spell with his 10 fingers, and printed the spell on the 4 talismans and shouted. "Gold is broken, fire is burned, earth collapses, and wood cracks." Accompanied by the hoarse shouting, the golden talisman attached to the top of the 3-legged golden toad quickly changed into a sharp sword emitting golden light, and slashed directly at its head. The fire talisman, earth talisman, and wood talisman attached to the three legs were respectively transformed into a ball of fire burning the belly of the three-legged golden toad, a grey mouse gnawing on the back of the three-legged golden toad, and countless vines entwined around the three legs. Feeling the arrival of the breath of destruction, the originally motionless three-legged golden toad statue instantly came to life, and then a long tongue stretched out from its open mouth. The long tongue quickly bounced the golden sword, slapped the mouse, broke the vine, and rolled up the flames. The body trembled slightly and shattered the rock with force, and then planned to fly into the air and escape from the pond. But at this moment, Zhang Fengjai, who had condensed the spell, directly printed the spell on the dragon that was suspended above the rockery, and continued to shout at the top of his lungs. "Water destroy!" The dragon, controlled by the spell and the mantra, roared silently to the sky, and then turned his huge body to directly stop the three-legged golden toad that had taken off. In the end, the three-legged golden toad was forced to fall back into the pond. Then, the dragon continued to swing its tail to hit the three-legged golden toad. Facing the huge tail that was slapping quickly, the three-legged golden toad opened its mouth and stretched out its long tongue, hitting the weak point of the tail. But at this moment, the golden sword that was forcibly bounced away stabbed its head again. The grey mouse that was slapped away waved its claws to hit the scarlet eyes. At this time, facing the deadly attacks from three directions, the three-legged golden toad closed its eyes quickly without panic, used it to resist the damage of the mouse claws, quickly retracted the long tongue to bounce the sword for the second time, and then curled up its whole body immediately to withstand the attack of the dragon. Boom! Accompanied by a violent roar, the nearly 3-meter dragon tail condensed by the water talisman and the pool water was directly smashed into countless water droplets and fell back into the pond. The three-legged golden toad that endured the attack of the dragon tail had countless cracks all over its body, and it was in danger of collapse at any time. Although it lost nearly 3 meters of the dragon tail, the dragon with a body length of more than 20 meters did not have much impact on its strength, so the dragon continued to rush towards the three-legged golden toad with its teeth and claws. At the same time, the golden sword that was bounced away and the grey mouse that avoided the attack of the dragon tail also joined the siege at the same time. Just as Zhang Fengjai used the dragon condensed by the water talisman to draw water from the pond, in the small conference room of the Ningji Municipal Party Committee compound, the 13 standing committee members who could decide and influence the economic development of the entire Ningji city were fiercely discussing a problem, that is, the site selection for the construction of the new district. Since Ningji city is an ancient city with a long history, there are many precious ancient buildings in the urban area. These ancient buildings not only have a lot of historical research value, but also have extremely high ornamental value. However, although these precious ancient buildings have brought rich tourism income to Ningji city, they have also restricted the transformation and development of the industry. As early as a year ago, the Municipal Party Committee and municipal government had already had the idea of preparing for the construction of a new district and preserving the ancient buildings in the old city. But it is not an easy task to create a new urban area out of thin air. There is a huge amount of money needed to build a new district, and it also involves interests from all aspects. Among them, the most critical point is the location of the new district. After all, the location of the new district involves a lot of demolition and compensation, and involves future life, transportation, medical care, education, finance, etc. Therefore, after a year of debate, the final reasonable address has not been selected. As the parent official of more than 8 million people in Ningji city, Secretary Sun looked at the map of Ningji city in front of him, and his eyes swept across one area after another. When the three-legged golden toad was severely injured by the tail of the dragon and was besieged by the dragon, the golden sword and the mouse, Secretary Sun's observation finally stopped at the area where the Heshuo community was located. Due to historical and geographical reasons, the development direction of Ningji city has always focused on the northeast, which has led to the relatively backward economy in the southwest, and the natural villages and permanent population are very scarce. If the new urban area is chosen in this place, although it will have a certain impact on attracting investment, it can save a lot of demolition compensation and population resettlement, and can also drive the economic development of the Southwest. Bang! Just when the three-legged golden toad was completely besieged by the dragon, the golden sword and the mouse and collapsed, Secretary Sun's strong and powerful hand directly slapped on the map of the area where the Heshuo community was located, and then argued with the other 12 standing committee members, and finally determined the address for the construction of the new district. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuchi. Chapter 506. In front of the pond in Heshuo community. Boom. Although the three-legged golden toad desperately used its long tongue to resist the siege of the dragon, the golden sword and the mouse, it was limited by its stone physique, strength, and injuries. In the end, his head was stabbed by a golden sword, his eyes were blinded by a grey mouse, and his body was blown to pieces by a dragon. The moment the three-legged golden toad was completely shattered, 5 deafening roars suddenly came from the debris and powder flying in the sky. Ouch! With a deafening roar, a golden dragon, a cyan dragon, a white dragon, a red dragon and a grey dragon flew out from the flying gravel and powder. What a beautiful little dragon! I like that little white dragon. I like that little golden dragon. When looking at the 5 little dragons hovering over the pond, they were small and cute. Except for the werewolf Alves, whose eyes showed shock and vigilance, the remaining 11 girls, including Xiao Yuxuan and Sulixiu, looked, starry eyes flashed with love. The 5 dragons returned to their thrones and the 5 elements gathered together. After waving away the scarred dragon and grey mouse, Zhang Fengjai stood on the surface of the pond with the help of a golden sword, and then shouted loudly with his fingers quickly condensing marks. Ouch! Immediately afterwards, the golden dragon that merged into the mark looked up to the sky and roared, flew directly to the north of Heshuo community, and then merged into the subway track. Ouch! The little cyan dragon that merged into the mark looked up to the sky and roared, then flew directly to the south of Heshuo community, and then merged into the fruit forest as far as the eye could see. Ouch! The little white dragon that merged into the mark looked up to the sky and roared, then flew directly to the east of Heshuo community, and then merged into the tributary of the canal. Ouch! The little grey dragon that merged into the mark looked up to the sky and roared, then flew directly to the west of Heshuo community, and then merged into the undulating hills. Ouch! The little red dragon that merged into the mark looked up to the sky and let out a roar, then turned its head and rushed towards the pond, and then merged into the water that was restored after the dragon dispersed. The red dragon is formed from the scorching fire element, and is completely incompatible with the clear water. Therefore, just as the red dragon rushed into the pond, a thick fog appeared in the pond, and the fog quickly enveloped the entire Heshuo community. Don't panic. This is water vapor after the mixture of water and fire. There is no danger. Zhang Fengjai, who returned to Xiao Yuxuan's side again, reminded loudly when he heard the shouts of Sulixiu and others coming from the mist, as well as the messy footsteps. Besides, wait a few minutes and the fog will dissipate automatically. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's reminder, Sulixiu and others gradually calmed down, and then slowly waited for the fog to dissipate. The waiting time is not very long, only about 3 minutes. As the red dragon condensed with fire elements was completely evaporated by the pool water, the fog that shrouded the entire Heshuo community gradually began to dissipate. When the fog completely dissipated, Alves, who had a keen sense of breath, sighed with surprise in his eyes. The air in the community is at least 10 times fresher than before, and there is also a feeling that automatically relaxes the mind. After hearing Alves sigh, Xiao Yuxuan, Sulixiu, and others quickly took deep breaths to feel it, and soon discovered the changes in the air in the entire community. Xiaoxiu, take them to the sales office to prepare. Without explaining the reasons for the changes in the community, Zhang Fengjai gave instructions to Sulixiu with a smile on his face. Because in half an hour at most, there will be customers coming to view the house. New. After responding, Sulixiu led everyone to the sales office and began to assign everyone's work and tasks. Using the werewolf's speed and jumping power, Alves hid on the roof of a high-rise building and observed the movements of the entire community. Zhang Fengjai, who was not involved in the sale, was sitting cross-legged on a blue rock by the pond, taking risks and continuing to improve his strength with the help of the essence of the 5 elements that remained when the 3-legged golden toad was shattered. Just as Zhang Fengjai predicted, half an hour had just passed when a black Mercedes-Benz sedan stopped at the sales office. Later, a rich-looking middle-aged man entered the sales hall accompanied by a young and beautiful girl. Xia Qingxuan, who had the most experience on site, received the other party with a professional smile on her face. But what happened next made her feel unbelievable. Because after asking about the price, the rich-looking middle-aged man not only didn't blink an eye, but also bought 6 100-square-meter houses in full without bargaining. Knowing that after solving the problem of Feng Shui hidden dangers, the sales of the entire Heshuo community will be booming, so when discussing the sales price, Zhang Maple Leaf not only did not choose to reduce the price, but instead increased the sales price by nearly 20% when the Torch Group opened. The selling price per square meter reaches 10,000, and there are no discounts. 6 houses of 100 square meters, with a total selling price of up to 6 million. According to the sales commission ratio set by Sulixiu, she can get almost 250,000 sales commission. This process of making money easily not only made Xia Qingxuan feel unbelievable, but also shocked the other 10 girls. Fortunately, Xiao Yuxuan, who fully believed in Zhang Fengjai, was the first to wake up from the shock, and then helped Xia Qingxuan complete the process of paying the money and signing the contract. Just when Xia Qingxuan and others had not completely calmed down from the shock, 3 more luxury cars stopped at the sales office, and then several well-dressed successful people came in. Afterwards, these successful people took 12 houses ranging from 80 square meters to 150 square meters in one go, which also allowed the 3 young girls who had just joined the company to receive sales commissions of 110,000, 130,000 and 140,000 respectively. In the following period of time, whether it was the transcendent Xiao Yuxuan and Sulixiu, or the experienced Xia Qingxuan, Panswitting, and Zhongli Wanran, as well as the 6 new employees who had just joined the company, there was no chance to shock them at all. Because more and more customers rushed to the sales hall, they were so busy that they didn't even have time to drink a sip of water. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Fengjai, with a flash of surprise in his eyes, stood up and walked towards the sales office. Because the person who called just now was Sun Shuxian, the chairman of Torch Group. The purpose of the other party's call was to reserve 6 villas and 3 buildings at the sales price he set. The reason why the other party reserved so many villas and buildings was that the area where Heshuo community was located had just been designated as a new district by the municipal party committee and municipal government. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 507. The Sales Office of Heshuo Community. Looking at the buyers who kept rushing over, they had already lined up outside the sales hall under the arrangement of the dozen brothers of the Chamber of Commerce that Sulixiu had temporarily mobilized. Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but shook his head with a wry smile. If he hadn't learned the latest development rules of the government from Sun Shuxian in advance, and knew that the area where Heshuo community was located was designated as a new district, then, facing the super hot sales scene in front of him, he would definitely doubt his Feng Shui ability. Originally, according to his estimation of the 5 elements Feng Shui gathering wealth, even if it was because of the hidden danger of the 3-legged golden toad, the large amount of suppressed 5 elements of luck would be released instantly, which would guide customers to buy houses in a very short time. However, due to the slightly remote geographical location of Heshuo community and the characteristics of the 5 elements feng shui that gently gather wealth, the hot sales scene should occur in the next 2 days. Moreover, it will take at least 7 days to sell all the houses. However, to his complete surprise, the collapse of the three-legged golden toad actually affected the government's decision-making, and eventually the area where the Heshuo community was located was divided into a new district, thus triggering the hot sales of the entire community. According to the hot sales on the scene, it is likely that in less than a day, the high-rise residential buildings in the Heshuo community should be sold out, and then the funds needed to build a leisure green park can be easily collected. In this way, there is no need to use the 100 million bonus and 100 million gambling money he won in the underground boxing market last night, and there is no need to overdraw his little accumulated wealth. However, thinking of Sun Shuxian's request on the phone, Zhang Fengjai quickly put away his complicated thoughts and entered the sales hall through the automatic sensor door. After searching for a long time, he saw Sulixiu, whose smile was already stiff, in the crowd of people on the sand table. Using the strength of his steel-like body, Zhang Fengjai forced his way through the crowd and came to Sulixiu, and hurriedly gave instructions. Xiaoxiu, help me reserve 3 high-rise residential buildings and 6 villas. Young man, do you understand what first come first served means? Do you know what respecting the elderly and loving the young means? Seeing the thin young man in front of him, he immediately booked 1/6 of the high-rise residential buildings and villas in the entire building. A middle-aged woman wearing gold and silver asked in a rather unhappy tone. That's right. The companions beside the middle-aged woman quickly echoed. If you want to buy a house, go to the back and queue up obediently. You are so young and you know how to cut in line. I don't know how your teachers taught you when you were in school. Fortunately, the number of houses Zhang Fengjai reserved just now was too domineering, which made the middle-aged women around him feel timid. The tone of questioning was relatively polite, so it did not affect his mood. Brother-in-law, why do you want so many houses? I had already learned about Zhang Fengjai's identity as a monk from my sister in detail. I knew that he regarded money as dirt and had low demands for material things. He would never think of making money by speculating in houses. So, after hearing his request to reserve 3 buildings and 6 villas at once, Sulixiu couldn't help but ask in confusion. It wasn't me, it was Sun Shuxian, the chairman of Torch Group, who asked me to help him reserve it. After hearing Zhang Fengjai's explanation, Sulixiu's face suddenly flashed a trace of displeasure. Because in her opinion, this must be because Sun Shuxian already knew that Zhang Fengjai had solved the sales risks of Heshuo community, and heard about the hot sales on the spot, and wanted to intercept and speculate on the house halfway. Then, the price he bought back the house would definitely be very low. But Zhang Fengjai's next words directly overturned her inner guess. Xiaoxiu, whether it is a high-rise residence or an independent villa, Sun Shuxian is willing to buy it back at the price we are selling now. As the hometown of a saint, Ningji City has a very developed tourism industry, but the overall economic development is very general. It can only be barely regarded as a third-tier city, and the average house price in the city is less than 7,000 per square meter. The high-rise residential buildings in Heshuo community have reached 11,000 square meters, and have lost the space for substantial appreciation in a short period of time. Even if they speculate in real estate, they will not make much money. Therefore, when Sulixiu heard that Sun Shuxian was willing to buy back the house at the selling price, she could not help but frown. Because Sun Shuxian's move to buy back the house was purely a waste of time and energy in her opinion. Xiaoxiu, the area where Heshuo community is located has just been planned as a new district by the municipal party committee and municipal government. Zhang Fengjai could probably guess the reason why Sulixiu frowned, so he stretched her hand to the corner of the sales hall, and then whispered in her ear to explain in detail. The area where Heshuo community is located is ruled as a new district. After hearing the important information revealed by Zhang Fengjai in the explanation, Sulixu, whose eyebrows were instantly stretched, flashed a look of enlightenment in her eyes. At this time, she finally understood why Sun Shuxian was willing to buy back so many houses at a price of 11,000 square meters. At this moment, she finally knew why those who came to buy houses were so generous and decisive. However, when she thought about the role of policies in promoting housing prices, and the fact that the housing prices in the residential areas in the city center close to the municipal party committee and municipal government had already exceeded 20,000 square meters, excitement gradually ignited in her eyes. Brother-in-law, call Sun Shuxian back now and tell him that all the high-rise residential buildings have been sold out, and only a few independent villas are left. Xiaoxiu, what do you want to do? No matter how hot the sales on site are, and how excited the buyers are, it is impossible to sell out more than 2,000 high-rise residential buildings in such a short time due to the time of business processing. Therefore, after hearing Sulixu's instructions, Zhang Fengjai couldn't help but frowned and asked, "Brother-in-law, do you know how powerful the government's policy of planning new districts is in promoting the housing prices in Heshuo community?" Not noticing Zhang Fengjai's frown, Sulixu reminded excitedly. 10%, 20%, even if we raise the sales price to 30% now, these buyers on site will buy without hesitation. As long as we wait until the day when the new district is officially established, even if they continue to increase the purchase price by 30%, or even 40%, they can easily buy the house in a blink of an eye. Because these people don't have a rigid demand for housing at all, they are a group of professional real estate speculators who are blinded by interests, so continuing to peel off a layer of skin from these people is also a good deed to eliminate harm for the people. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuqi. Chapter 508. In the Sales Hall of Heshuo Community. After hearing Sulixu's excited explanation, Zhang Fengjai thought for a while, and then mobilized the gray energy in Danshan to open the heavenly eye. Then, he turned his head to look at those enthusiastic speculators who were placing orders frantically. Although the Cai Palace and Lu Palace were full of purple, there were two very eye-catching black and red mixed in the purple. This situation shows that although they made a lot of money by speculating in real estate, they directly harmed countless innocent people. Black is resentment, red is hatred. Black represents the curse of the people on them. Red represents the hatred of the people for them. Although the forehead is full, the yin-tang is dark, which means that although they are a group of blessed people, the acquisition of ill-gotten wealth makes them likely to encounter a disaster at any time. At the same time, a red lotus vaguely emerged in the sea of consciousness, indicating that their accumulated sins have been so serious that they have condensed into a lotus of evil. After withdrawing his eye from focusing on Nilian and dispersing the gray energy that opened the eye, Zhang Fengjai turned around and asked, "Xiaoxiu, can you be sure that among all the buyers, there is no urgent need to solve the housing demand?" "Of course." Nodding vigorously, Sulixu replied affirmatively. "Brother-in-law, because among all the buyers, the least number of houses purchased is 4, which is obviously used to speculate on the house to make money. After all, for those who really need housing, it is very difficult to buy a commercial house, let alone buy more than 4 houses at a time." After getting Sulixu's affirmative answer, Zhang Fengjai, with a cold light in his eyes, ordered solemnly, "Xiaoxiu, I don't care how much you raise the sales price of the house next, but you must agree to one request of mine, that is, you must never sell the house to the people who really need it." "No problem. If the price continues to rise, then buyers who really need housing will definitely be hesitant in the face of such a high price. Then, they can easily distinguish who is a speculator and who is a real demander. Moreover, ordinary people are always the last to get the news about the government's planning of new districts. By the time they want to participate, the houses have been sold out. Therefore, Facing Zhang Fenjai's solemn request, Sulixu nodded and agreed without hesitation. Okay, just do it according to your own ideas. I'll call Sun Shuxian now. After waving his hand to signal Sulixu to go to work, Zhang Fenjai turned and left the sales hall and returned to the pond, then took out his mobile phone and called Sun Shuxian. After the call was connected, he only said a warning that it was not suitable to buy or speculate in houses now, and then hung up the phone directly. After scanning the surroundings, he found a rock about 80 centimeters high next to the rockery, and then used the sharp sword condensed by gray energy and the half-baked carving technique to quickly carve a slightly similar Pixio statue. Then, he cut his finger and forced out a drop of blood, then used the blood to draw a seal talisman out of thin air and stuck it directly on the mouth of the Pixio. Then, he lifted the Pixio statue, which weighed about 300 kilograms, and sank it directly into the pond where the three-legged golden toad was. Although the Pixio, the three-legged golden toad, the Kylan, and the golden turtle are known as the four great fortune-attracting beasts, these four beasts all have a fatal weakness. The weakness of the three-legged golden toad is in the eyes, the weakness of the Kylan is in the back, and the weakness of the golden turtle is in the reverse scale. And the weakness of the Pixio is in the mouth. As the saying goes, the Pixio has no mouth, and it bites back the rich. Since it is a fortune-attracting beast, the Pixio, known as the dragon's son, is born to like treasures with wealth, and gathers wealth from all directions by eating from all directions with its big mouth. However, using the seal to block the mouth of the Pixio is equivalent to directly cutting off its hobby of collecting treasures and the means of gathering wealth. Then, the resentful Pixio will have a crazy revenge. Since you don't let me collect treasures with wealth, then I will dispel the wealth you have. Since the Pixio statue is carved from a sharp sword condensed from gray energy, it is endowed with strong spirituality and power at the moment of carving. Therefore, at most 4 to 5 days, the Heshuo community will fall into the dilemma of sales difficulties again because of the complete disappearance of wealth. Then, those professional real estate speculation groups who want to make a fortune with the new district policy will also be destroyed by the cause and effect of the house. After patting the mud on his hands, Zhang Fenjai continued to sit cross-legged by the pond, continuing to absorb the remaining 5 elements' essence to improve his strength. Sulixu's decision to suddenly increase the sales price by 20% not only did not cause dissatisfaction among the buyers on the scene, but also stimulated their enthusiasm for buying. Because in the eyes of these profit-oriented real estate speculators, Sulixu dared to raise the price rashly, and the price increase reached 20%, which means that she must have received the latest news about the new district policy. Moreover, it was quite good news. The real estate speculator who originally planned to buy only 4 houses immediately increased the number to 6 by means of bank loans. The local tycoon who originally planned to buy only 10 houses immediately mobilized funds to increase the number to 15. The rich man who was still hesitating whether to buy the villa immediately decided to buy it. Under the enthusiastic efforts of the speculators, the high-rise residential buildings and villas that originally took about a day to be completely sold out were sold out in just half a day. When the last buyer left the sales hall, the 11 girls who had not eaten, drank water, or rested, either fell on the chair, or lay on the dirty ground, or crawled directly on the sand table. However, although they looked exhausted, everyone's face showed a satisfied and happy smile. After all, the sales commission of more than 2,000 high-rise residential buildings and dozens of independent villas allowed each of them to successfully enter the level of multimillionaires and become a true social elite. Everyone has worked hard. Let's drink some water first, and then eat some bread and biscuits to fill our stomachs. It was expected that everyone who was busy would definitely have no time to drink water and eat, so Zhang Fenjai had arranged for Alves to drive to the city to buy some water and snacks an hour ago. When everyone's energy is restored a little, let's go to a big restaurant and have a good meal. Zhang Fenjai, thank you. Looking at Zhang Fenjai handing her mineral water and bread, Xia Qingxuan, who had fallen on the chair, stood up with gritted teeth, then bent 90 degrees to thank him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yanyun Yuchi. Chapter 509. In the sales hall of Heshuo Community. As the veteran employee with the most sales experience, Xia Qingxuan, whose image and temperament are most likely to make people feel good, has sold high-rise residential buildings and villas, which is almost the sum of the sales of 6 new employees. According to the sales commission ratio set by Sulixiu, she finally received a sales commission of more than 50 million. A huge sum of 50 million. If it is deposited in the bank as a fixed deposit, the annual interest will exceed 1 million. With the consumption level of Ningji City barely approaching that of a third-tier city, she can completely eat, drink and have fun without working, and enjoy a happy life without restraint. Xia Qingxuan, this is all earned by your hard work and hard work. It has nothing to do with me, so you don't need to thank me. After forcing the mineral water and bread into Xia Qingxuan's hands, Zhang Fengjai smiled and comforted her, and continued to distribute water and food. Whether it was Pan Switing and Zhongli Jiaren, who were very familiar with him, or the 6 young girls who had just joined the company, they would bow solemnly before reaching out to take the water and food he handed over. As for Xiao Yuxuan, who had a close relationship with him, she not only needed to bow to thank him, but also could enjoy a special massage service. After everyone had eaten food and drank water, and simply sorted out the documents and materials, everyone took a bus temporarily arranged by Sulixiu back to the city. Zhang Fengjai, it's just 4:30 in the afternoon. Is it too early to go to the restaurant now? When the bus drove into the city, Xia Qingxuan took out his mobile phone and looked at the time, and reminded with a hint of hesitation in his eyes. Yes. I just ate bread and biscuits. If I go to the restaurant now, I will definitely not eat much. That's right, I haven't had a complete rest yet, and I will definitely not be able to drink to my heart's content. Xia Qingxuan's reminder immediately attracted the approval of the 6 young girls, and they also expressed their opinions that they did not want to go to the restaurant now. Okay, let's go back to the company and rest for a while, and then go to the restaurant after get off work. The insincere tone and the expectant look in their eyes made Zhang Fengjai immediately guess the reason why they didn't want to go to the restaurant right away. It's nothing more than wanting to return to the sales department of Yongsheng Group to show off, to gain the envious and jealous eyes of colleagues, to enjoy their praise and size, so as to satisfy their vanity. In this regard, Zhang Fengjai decided to meet their expectations and wishes with understanding. Because he also wanted to go back to the sales department of Yongsheng Group now, to see Ma Ting, who had rejected him flatly at the beginning, and the elites of the sales department, and their wonderful reactions when they learned that Xia Qingxuan had received more than 50 million sales commissions in less than a day, and that 6 newcomers who had just joined the company had received more than 10 million sales commissions. Brother-in-law, why don't I go to the company with you? After hearing Zhang Fengjai's proposal, Sulixiu thought about it for a while, and then asked with a complicated look. Okay, it's a good opportunity to visit your sister's office and take a look at where I usually work. Reaching out to help Sulixiu tidy up the scattered hair on her forehead, Zhang Fengjai agreed to find an excuse for her. In fact, he could understand Sulixiu's complicated mood at this time. Born in a family that extremely favors boys over girls, she was able to grow up happily and receive a complete university education, thanks to Sulixiu's care and support. Therefore, in her subconscious, she treated Sulixiu with a kind of respect and fear as an elder sister, which is why she never dared to meet Sulixiu in the more than 2 years she followed Wang Hao. Because she was afraid of seeing her sister's disappointment, unwilling to see her sister's sadness and loss, and even inferior to her incompetence and degeneration. Now, she has not only successfully turned from evil to good and walked on the right path, but also achieved success through her own efforts. Therefore, she is now very eager to prove herself in front of her sister, proving that she is also an excellent girl, but she is also worried that her sister will criticize her for taking shortcuts. After all, the sales of Heshuo community are so hot, mainly due to Zhang Fengjai using the power of a monk to resolve the feng shui hidden dangers of Heshuo community. The front desk on the first floor of Torch Building. After hanging up the phone, Han Han directly picked up the cylindrical pen on the counter and wrote and calculated on a piece of white paper. After calculating for about 5 minutes, Han Han couldn't help but sighed. "Sister Han Han, what's wrong with you?" When Ting Ting, who was standing next to her, heard Han Han's sigh, she glanced at the large number of numbers on the white paper and couldn't help asking in confusion. "Ting Ting, a rich friend of mine just called and said that all the high-rise residential buildings and villas in Heshuo community were sold out in less than a day." Looking at the 9 digits at the bottom of the white paper, Han Han said without hiding the envy and jealousy in her eyes. Based on the initial pricing and the subsequent price increase, the girl who acted as the sales agent for Heshuo community can get at least more than 700 million yuan in sales commission. How is this possible? Having personally participated in the sales of Heshuo community, Ting Ting knew very well how difficult it was to sell houses in Heshuo community, which did not have any geographical advantages. Otherwise, Heshuo community would not have been called the #1 pitfall in Ningji city's real estate, and the chairman would not have completely given up on Heshuo community in the end. So, when she heard Han Han's explanation full of envy and jealousy, she immediately showed an incredible look on her face. It was impossible, but at the Municipal Party Committee Standing Committee meeting this morning, the main leaders of the Municipal Party Committee and the municipal government unanimously passed the resolution to prepare for the construction of the new district, and the location of the new district is the area where the Heshuo community is located. Han Han, with an incredible look on her face, said in a surprised tone. "Moreover, according to my rich girlfriend, the air in the entire Heshuo community is not only very fresh, but also gives people a sense of relaxation and concentration, making her feel like returning to the mountains and forests. It is precisely because of the preparations for the new district and the changes in the environment that the sales of the entire Heshuo community have completely entered a hot period. It only took 7 hours for all the houses to be sold out." After hearing Han Han's explanation full of surprise, Ting Ting's face suddenly showed a look of shock and envy, and regret appeared in her eyes. If she had agreed to Zhang Fengjai's invitation yesterday, she would be in the sales team of the Heshuo community today. If she could also participate in today's hot sales, she could get at least millions, or even tens of millions of sales commissions afterwards. If she could get millions of sales commissions, she would not only be able to completely solve her family's difficulties, but also be able to quit her job and go to the tourist destination of her dreams. Unfortunately, there is no regret medicine in this world. Faced with the lost opportunity to make money, she could only accept it silently with sadness. The Best Physiognomist. Author, Yan Yun Yuqi. Chapter 510. Xintang Building, Yongsheng Group. As the most well-informed people in the real estate market, the sales elites with their own connections had already known the specific news of the preparation for the construction of the new district half an hour after the end of the Municipal Party Committee Standing Committee meeting. They knew very well the huge impact of the establishment of the new district on the real estate industry. They could fully imagine how hot the sales of Heshuo community, which was included in the site selection of the new district, would face. Therefore, Ma Ting, the gold medal salesperson who flatly rejected Zhang Fengjai's invitation, and the top 10 sales elites in the sales department, had already regretted it in their hearts. When they saw Xia Qingxuan and Pan Switing, who returned triumphantly, and the 6 newcomers who had just joined the company, they could not hide their happy smiles on their faces, and their eyes immediately showed envy. When they heard that Lu Hian, who had the worst sales performance among the 6 newcomers who had just joined the company, received a sales commission of more than 10 million, not only did they show strong envy and jealousy in their eyes, but they also regretted it. You know, due to the fierce competition between different real estate projects, price cuts and discounts during the sales process, the sales cycle, and the impact of the sales commission ratio, the average salesperson can only earn about 10,000 yuan a month in salary, bonuses, and sales commissions. Even Ma Ting, who is known as a gold medal salesperson, can only earn 4 to 5 million yuan after sales commissions during the peak sales season of September and October. The point is that the sales commission income of 4 to 5 million yuan is not earned in one day or 1 month, but in 2 to 3 months. So, when she heard that Xia Qingxuan, whom she usually looked down on, had earned more than 50 million yuan in sales commissions in less than 1 day, Ma Ting, as a gold medal salesperson, felt envy, jealousy, self-blame, and regret, as well as deep hostility. Because in her opinion, Xia Qingxuan's outstanding performance not only threatened her gold medal sales status, but also affected the competition for the positions of sales director and group vice president in the future. After all, when Sulitzi first joined the sales department of Yongsheng Group, she started as an ordinary salesperson in the sales office, and then relied on her outstanding business ability to step by step from deputy director to director, from deputy director to director. Finally, with the qualifications and achievements of the gold medal sales, she directly jumped from deputy director to director, and then became the deputy general manager of the group step by step, and now the general manager who is under one person and above 10,000 people. Therefore, Sulitzi's promotion path gave many sales elites the illusion and hope that they could become the top of the group step by step with their outstanding sales qualifications and achievements. Taking a deep breath, forcibly suppressing the hostility in her heart, and intending to retract her gaze from Xia Qingxuan, she unexpectedly saw the thin boy standing at the door of the office, and the hostility in Ma Ting's eyes was instantly replaced by hatred. Because the fundamental reason for Xia Qingxuan's excellent expression was Zhang Fenjai's extravagance and contempt. If Zhang Fenjai did not borrow the staff of the sales department to help, no matter how excellent the performance of others was, it would not pose the slightest threat to her. If Zhang Fenjai could be more humble when seeking her help, and reveal some secrets about the policy orientation of the new district in advance, then, with her intelligence and sales ability, she would definitely join the sales team of Heshuo community. In the end, she would be able to gain both fame and fortune like Xia Qingxuan. The dual influence of hostility and hatred made Ma Ting's emotions gradually out of control. When she thought that she was the sales champion for 2 consecutive years and was highly regarded by Shen Loxi and the group's senior management. When she thought that the Heshuo community, where Xia Qingxuan and others participated in the sales, was a property that Zhang Fenjai privately represented the Torch Group, which was a serious violation of the company's rules and regulations, a revenge plan immediately flashed through her mind. After opening her personal laptop and quickly printing an application for a resignation report, Ma Ting stood up and left the sales department's office, and walked confidently to the president's office. Because she believed that with her ability in sales, Shen Loxi and Sulitzi would definitely carefully consider whether she would stay or go. Even if he couldn't retaliate against Zhang Fenjai, who had a special identity, he could at least fire the 8 people who participated in the sales of Heshuo community today. In this way, Xia Qingxuan would not threaten her future promotion. Seeing Ma Ting passing by him and walking towards the chairman's office with a haughty look, Zhang Fenjai knew that she wanted to retaliate against him and Xia Qingxuan and others. In response, Zhang Fenjai, with a flash of disdain in his eyes, reminded Sulixu without paying any attention. "Xiaoxiu, let's go, brother-in-law will take you to see your sister's office now." The sales off-season is the time to count various data, and it is also the period when the company's senior executives travel the least. Therefore, not only is Sulitzi, the general manager who is responsible for all the affairs of the group, in the office, but even Shen Loxi, who has been busy acquiring the Zhulang Group recently, rarely appears in the president's office. "Director Ma, what do you mean?" Looking at the resignation letter handed over by Ma Ting and listening to her talk about the company's rules and regulations violated by Zhang Fengjai and Xia Qingxuan, Shen Loxi's face gradually darkened. Zhang Fengjai is not only the savior of the Shen family and Yongshen group, but also the man she wants to be with forever. Not to mention being an agent for the sale of Torch Group's properties. Even if she gave the properties developed by Yongshen Group to others, she would not frown. Therefore, Ma Ting's complaint behind her back made her feel unhappy and strongly disgusted. Chairman, if you don't fire Zhang Fengjai, Xia Qingxuan, Pan Switing, and others who took the lead in destroying the company's rules and regulations, then I will resign now and leave. Shen Loxi's gloomy face made Ma Ting mistakenly think that she was angry because Zhang Fengjai and Xia Qingxuan and others privately represented the sales. Therefore, with her confidence instantly doubled, she directly listed Zhang Fengjai as the primary target of revenge. Because I don't want to stay in a company that is nepotistic and does not distinguish between public and private, and continue to waste my youth and ability. If Ma Ting's proposal was only aimed at Xia Qingxuan and Pan Switing and others, Shen Loxi might have tried to comfort her by considering her work ability. But the proposal to fire Zhang Fengjai was like touching her weak spot, which made Shen Loxi angry. She signed her name on the resignation letter and handed it to Ma Ting, ordering with a cold expression. Ma Ting, I agree with your resignation. You can pack up and leave now.